Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to today's live video where we are going over Jupiter going direct. This transit is happening on February 14th. I have been definitely looking forward to it, and today that's what we're going into. So, welcome to everyone who is jumping on the live. If you're watching the replay, just know that you're not going to miss anything. Everything that we do here on the live, you can access on the replay using the timestamps. And also, lately, I have also been including a little banner with the sign that we're covering. So, if you get here before there are timestamps, you can always just go by that to find your sun, moon, and rising and watch this forecast. One thing you should know before we get into this is that I have a video that's a personal video you can get. It's for blocks to blessings. So this video is about, I basically look at your chart and I see what I see as your biggest sort of challenge energetically based on your astrology. And then I tell you what it is. And I tell you the good and the bad and how you can best work with it. This is a personalized video and they are going to be available only until this Tuesday. So if you'd like to get in on that, make sure you get it soon so you don't miss it. All right, so I do have to check our sound before I can proceed because I tend to have issues with that. And as soon as I do that, we'll jump into the forecast. Let me know if you're jumping on. If you just let me know you're here, say hello. It looks like purposely my power is here. Mark is here. I will mess up your names, so just expect that from me, please. I have this. I have this knack for mispronouncing names, so just that is a thing. Yeah, so welcome to everyone jumping on. And again, if you're watching the replay, know that everything that we're covering is going to be available. And thank you for that, purposely for that comment. And thank you, Mark, for that as well. It is so, I love the winter here in Vegas, you guys. It is so like cold, but also sunny, like every day. I always look forward to it. And I'm definitely enjoying that. And I cannot believe it's 2025. So there are a couple of videos I've done recently that you might enjoy. And one especially that you guys might like is the North Node. So I did one called, it's called The Nodes. The Nodes enter Pisces and Virgo. I did this back in December. It is the same style as this, where it is sun, moon, and rising, and it goes over the chain of the nodes that happened back not that long ago, just this month on January 11th. Now that's a longer transit, so if you haven't watched that video, you can watch it now. It's still going to be relevant until next year, through next year. Then also the last video I did on North Node Venus, that's happening February 1st. So if you're interested in what's coming up, that's a really good one for more of the day-to-day stuff. And then we have today. Today we're talking about Jupiter going direct, which I'm especially excited about because if you guys know me, I'm really good at talking about the challenges. I do love talking about the challenges and helping you understand them. And so I'm better at it. Actually, I'm better at telling you all the things that are wrong in your chart than I am at like, oh, here's the gifts. Because and that's not because I want to bring your attention to what's wrong with you. It's because sometimes when we like I've had this happen to me where I hear about a transit or a placement that I have and someone explains the hardship of it and I'm like, yeah. And I feel so that part of me feels so much more aligned and resolved that these energies that I deal with every day are real and they're reflected in the chart and they're not always easy, right? And yeah, and then sometimes too, when I do tell people their blessings, it's so funny because I'll tell someone their challenge and they're like, "Oh my God, yes." And then I'll tell them something good and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, that's easy for me." Yep. And it's like that's sometimes how we move through life is we really feel the pain. We feel the pain points, but we don't always know that the things that come easily to us are blessings because we don't always sit back and take a moment to think about what life would be like with if that thing weren't easy. Okay, so that was my little ramble for today. We're going to go into the 12 signs of the zodiac. You can watch your sun, moon, and rising, and we're talking about Jupiter going direct. Now, Jupiter goes direct. The cycle from Jupiter going direct to retrograde, it's about a year cycle because it's connected to the sun. So it's the synodic cycle. And when Jupiter gets to a certain point in relationship to the sun, it goes retrograde. And then when it gets to a certain point in relationship to the sun, it will go direct. Now, this is kind of okay. I have mixed feelings about direct and retrograde because I think when we are learning astrology and we hear direct and retrograde, we just kind of think good and bad. It's not like that. Retrograde planets aren't bad and direct planets aren't better. Although if someone has retrograde planets, sometimes they will have a more meandering process in that area of life. But it doesn't mean you're doomed and like you're totally fucked. That's like the biggest thing is retrograde planets won't make you destined to have like some hardship. They don't necessarily imply hardship as much as I need to kind of go back. And then when it comes to Jupiter, we're talking about our growth. Purposely, I don't really do astrocartography. I know it's a thing and I think it's cool, but it's not something I focused on in my career, so I can't answer that. But I do relate to you as your place of birth not being best for you. I relate to that. And I'm also on my Neptune line and I don't like that. But I can't help. I actually thought I'm going on a sidetrack here, but I think it'll be fun. I really did think about moving to my Jupiter line, but I got nervous about that. I feel too old to do that now. You know, it's just like, it doesn't appeal to me to have to pack up my car and like just roll up in a new place anymore. I did that enough in my 20s and my early 30s even. Anyway, let's get to what we're talking about with Jupiter. I want to give one little sort of disclaimer before we get into the actual forecast. And that is that the Jupiter is going to tell us when Jupiter goes direct, whatever opportunities we have been building toward up until in the last year will become more available. Usually there's something you can say yes to. But the caveat is that that's going to be different for everyone. What have you been working toward? Are you in your first job and you've been working toward just the next, your first promotion you've ever had? Or are you, are you like retired, right? So like those are going to be totally different things. Even if that same person, if we're talking about the same person in those two different times and seasons of life, that opportunity is going to be something totally different. Purposely, no problem. Akulo, hello. And so just keep in mind that the opportunity that strikes for you with Jupiter going direct might be small, it might be big, it might just be the next indicated thing for wherever you are in life. So think of what your life is now. It might, sometimes I've had so many times in life where I got opportunities that I didn't even want. They're not the thing I wanted. And so it's not like Jupiter rains down blessings. It will make whatever situation in your life is there better, but sometimes you're already in not the best situation and it will just make it a little bit better. So I don't say that to bring you guys down, but to kind of manage the expectations of Jupiter because I really, really, really overemphasized Jupiter's potential when I was newer in astrology, and it was very disappointing. So let's just stay in an even keel and just know that Jupiter will give everyone a potential for growth or opportunity, but that growth or opportunity may not be the thing you've been praying and wishing for your whole life. It might just be the next indicated step. Okay? Okay, so let's get into the video. We're going to start with Aries as always, and we're going to go through to Pisces. So for Aries, we're looking at February 4th. Jupiter goes direct in the third house. So now also, this may not happen on the 4th, it might, but it might take a little time. There might be something that happens after the 4th that is some kind of opportunity. Okay, so for Aries, that can be in your third house of your car. You might improve your car, your transportation, your communication. If you are a writer, it might be some ideas for what to write, or some time, or some kind of growth or improvement in that area. And that is true whether you write emails at your job or whether you write as a hobby or something else. But that's only going to be for people who are a writer. If you are in another third house topic, like you're an elementary school teacher, there might be some positive thing for you with that. That's only going to be those people though. So other third house stuff might be your aunts, uncles, cousins, and siblings. So the third house is siblings, but it's also those extended family members. So for Aries, maybe there's some growth in the family. Maybe a cousin is having a baby and it's just like the aunts and the uncles and all the other cousins are all happy. So just think about your life and what third house thing that I've listed or otherwise might be present. So it's more likely going to be the third house things that are currently active in your life. If you commute and you don't have a car, then it might be something that improves your commute. Maybe the subway adds a new line and now it's easier, right? So it could be anything, because the third house does represent our trip to and from places, our commute, where we go every day, the store we stop at to get our groceries, our favorite bar, our favorite crystal shop, whatever it is you do, wherever you frequent. If you're like me, it's going to be Whole Foods and some like natural, hippie restaurant or something, but it's whatever you do, wherever you go on a regular basis. Jupiter might provide some kind of opportunity, and it's in Gemini, so it might be some kind of like doubling up of something that allows for something to be easier. It's almost like maybe a restaurant gets put in next to your favorite coffee shop, and now you can just go to one and then the other. I'm getting really off in the weeds here, but that might be true for one Aries out there. Okay, so then the next thing we should consider for Aries is that Jupiter rules the 9th house and the 12th house and the 3rd house. So maybe this is a spiritual thing for Aries. Maybe some Aries in early February or after that, there is some kind of spiritual practice or temple or Buddhist, weekly meeting where you are able to go in your local neighborhood. Now, if there's something like that you already do, where you're already going to the Qigong class, or you're already going to, the book study of some spiritual thing you want to know more about, well, then this might be it improving in some way. But it could also be something else related to the 9th house, like you start learning a language. But there's emphasis for Aries on the growth and the opportunities showing up in your local community. And being like, and being like, sorry, I got distracted by the comments. Just being something you do with people in your neighborhood, or like, especially Jupiter and Gemini, that they're like, we're all chit-chatting, you're getting together and you're chit-chatting with people more, and it's something, good and positive. Now, think about what you've been working toward growing the last year, especially related to that 9th house of your spiritual life, your meditations, and your 12th house of psychology and therapy. So there could be some kind of breakthrough or some kind of positive growth that you really see happening, especially if you've been like meditating or doing something else where you've really been working at, like achieving that next level spiritually or achieving that next level when it comes to a language you're learning or something else along those lines. Okay. All right. Okay. So I saw, Akolu, I saw your, comment on the subway. I lived in Seoul for a few years, so I think that's what I was thinking of is just they do that. They add new subway lines and their subway is so good. So maybe you just are bringing your spiritual book on the subway if you write it, it could be something like that. Um, this is actually, yeah, so purposely, yeah, you can watch your sun, moon, and rising for all my videos like this. You can watch all three. The rising is going to be usually more clearly seen in the external world. And then some people relate more to their sun or their moon or both, but you can always just do all three. Okay, going on now to our Tauruses. Let me get on the right thing here and then let me get on it over here so you guys have that. Yeah, 50 years to get a new line. I'm so sorry. That's insane. But I believe you. Okay, so we have Taurus now. Sorry. Taurus now, and Jupiter goes direct in that second house of money. So this might mean more money for some Tauruses, but it might not. So hear me out. The second house is not just your money, it's also your possessions, what you have and what you own. So with Jupiter going through the second house, generally speaking, this is usually positive for finances. It will help make it better, but sometimes Jupiter, like the second house being the things you own and Jupiter being there, you might just get something new. You might buy a new thing. You might buy a new TV or a new, like, big purchase of an item that's like a double, like it's in Gemini. So it could be like, I'm thinking of like a headboard that's like, very symmetrical or like a double headboard or like a double exhaust or something. Although I think I don't imagine most of you watching this have a dual exhaust on your car, but you never know. So the point here is that don't just think that expansion in your financial world and your material world simply means a raise. It could be a bonus or something, but it can also be, and it might be, I have seen this where it's like, yeah, you're making more money now. And this is the season of life where you get to do that. It could totally be that. It could also be you have more stuff to take care of, or maybe you move and like now you have a space to get more things. And there's the feeling of abundance with what you have. You might open a second bank account, like you have a second savings or something like that, right? Because the second house is your money. And then, simply you could just get some cash flow. You could get a raise or a bonus or a tax return that's bigger than normal or something. Now let's go to the next level here besides just the second house, and that's going to be the eighth house. Jupiter rules the eighth house and the 11th house. So I like the 11th house ruler in the second for you, Taurus, because 11th house is also a money house. 11th house is like money that's like really good money. I'm not saying your money isn't good, but like for some people, their second houses are like the money you make from the work you do. You had to work for it. It's not always like, yay. The 11th house has more of a yay feeling to it when it comes to money. So that feels like it could have some positive financial effects. Of course, this is not business advice or anything like that. But then the eighth house is also a money house. So we have money, money, money. But the eighth house is other people's money or your debts or taxes or inheritances or things that are kind of tied up with others or other things like this. And so that eighth house ruler in the second, it might be someone who owes you money paying you back. It might be, oftentimes this is other people's money coming to you. And especially for any Tauruses out there who this is like what you've been dealing with. If you've been dealing with trying to get a settlement, or if you've been dealing with trying to get I don't know, like a will or an estate or something, an inheritance, or like something complicated financially like that, that again is tied up with other people, and it's not just your money. It's like it comes from a different source, but it's other people's money coming to you. That could be something that I don't want to make any promises. I can't, promise that much over here, but there is potential for those types of topics to be perhaps having some forward momentum, especially if they have not been moving forward up until now. So we might see that shift of almost like a change of the winds for finances for Taurus around that time. Now, what else could this be besides just money? Well, the 11th house is also your community. So your community being in the second house of your possessions and your money could be something where it could be something where you're making money off of a community. You have a monthly membership now and you didn't before, or if you have like a product or something in your work that making it available to a group of people would make sense. It could be something along those lines as well, but that's only if that kind of makes sense for your life right now. Now, what could be the 8th house if it's not money? Well, intimacy, and it's almost like, okay, with the 8th house ruler in the second for Tauruses this whole time through about June of this year, there might be a theme here of taking something that's normally your own private thing and sharing, or having someone else come in and be involved either in a private space that normally is just your own space, or have them come in and be involved in a project that really is kind of your own idea and your own focus and your own will that you're sort of enacting on the world. Because that second house, I see in evolutionary, I see the second house is like our own like private area of life that we're just focusing in on ourselves. And the 8th house is like when we focus out on others. So it's like the focus on others combines with your own focus. So maybe someone's helping you with a project that's really your project, but you've got some input from another person, or you and your partner are focusing on money together and you're combining both of your energy toward a common goal. It could be something like that as well. Overall for Tauruses, Jupiter going direct, this is going to affect your money the most. And I mean, that's not a bad thing, but that's the one common thread of all three of these houses is money. But it does also bring in 2 more social houses into a much more private house. So again, it does feel kind of like the growth that might happen might actually be from collaborative efforts, even if it is your own thing. So maybe you got some help with something in the last year and now you're pushing it forward, but it's because you have this community behind you, or these people behind you, or this help or this mentorship or something like that maybe not mentorship, but some kind of collaborative effort, a joint effort, allows you to push your money or your possessions further or get more out of them. Okay, so that's what I think is mostly happening for Taurus around the 4th of February. So let's go on now to our next sign, which is going to be our Geminis. And for Gemini, we have Jupiter going direct in the 1st house of you. So I like this for Geminis. Having Jupiter in your 1st is going to be a strong place for it in terms of the houses. And Jupiter in the 1st kind of means you're growing, you're learning. Now, they say, and I haven't studied this, but they say you can gain weight because you literally can grow when Jupiter's in your 1st house, like your body can grow. They say that when Jupiter's in the 6th house as well. that you can really just put on the pounds during that year. So you can decide whether that's relevant to you or not. But it really does feel like Jupiter in the first, you're really going to feel this growth. And it could possibly be you like kind of learning something new with all this happening in the ninth house and Pluto moving into the ninth house, really bringing the need to change. So it might be something for Geminis where you're training on some kind of new software at your job, or you're, working a second job for a little bit, or you're doing night classes or classes, on the side of something else you're already doing. It does feel like it will be fun. But it also feels like the opportunity involves you, and it's the first house is your body, right? It's you. So like maybe you are going somewhere, or maybe you are the one learning the thing, or it's like this stuff that you do, that you learn and you grow, but then even if you're not in that situation anymore, you take those things with you. So like gaining new skills is probably what I would see for Geminis. Some of you might be talking more, not like you guys aren't already chit-chatting away, but just like having more conversations and having your growth be funneled through the act of discourse and like going back and forth and talking to different people about something. Okay, so that's really the big thing for Geminis, but Jupiter also rules your 7th house and your 10th house. So the 10th house first, that's going to be work. You expanding your role in your job is very likely at this time. And that could be something that has been in the works. Like maybe for Geminis, maybe there's a Gemini out there who's like, that you knew you were going to get a new software at work, and now is when the software comes and you're like, it's your responsibility to learn it. So this is why I'm like, I'm not trying to bring anyone down, but sometimes the growth and the opportunity isn't always like something that we would deem exciting or fun. But that's still, learning a new skill at work is still a way of growing and having new things, because you become more than you were before you knew how to use that software. Okay, so then Jupiter also rules the 7th house, which is other people, including relationships. So Geminis who are single, this might be a good time to put yourself out there. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but a partner becoming yours could be one way you could interpret 7th ruler in the first. And sometimes this will be a time where your identity is affected by the people you're around. So that's another thing just to know during this period. But it could be like a relationship that supports your life and your well-being and your goals is now happening, or is now moving forward more, or is now, present. It doesn't have to be that. And the relationship doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a lover. It could be a friend too. So, but that still feels like positivity happening for Geminis. So we're going to go now to our Cancers. And all right, so Cancer, you guys have Jupiter in the 12th going direct. Okay, so for Cancers, Jupiter in the 12th is the time where the growth is invisible. Okay, so for Cancers, if you're feeling like you're not seeing a lot of professional advancement at the moment, or if you feel like you're not seeing a lot of in life, external life, that's not where Jupiter is helping you grow. Right now, Jupiter is helping you grow your psychological world over here. It's helping you see if you have any self-defeating habits. It's going to help you see those, and it will help you fix those or make those better. Jupiter in the 12th helps you see gives you solutions to psychological, or I don't want to use the word psychological, but like problems that are in your head, problems that are in like places where we don't normally have time to look. So what could that look like for cancers? Maybe doing some kind of therapy. I'm not diagnosing anything. I don't diagnose anything, but maybe some of you have already been doing therapy or something similar that has the same outcome, which is you're emotionally more sound, you're emotionally more aligned. So anything cancers have been doing to work toward emotional or spiritual alignment, we might see beginning the 4th of February, more growth in that area. Some more, you might get more out of it. So let's say cancers, there's some cancers out there who've been doing some hypnotherapy or Reiki practice or something. Well, starting February, maybe now you really start to see the benefits of that. Maybe you really start to see, you did Reiki on someone's cat and they were better, or something else like that, where you have to look to see this Jupiter. That's the point I'm trying to make here for cancers. It doesn't just show up in your external world. It's going to be the inner world. It's going to be the connection to your guides. It's going to be the ability to respond differently to something that stresses you out because maybe you learned some processes, right? Now, if you're a Cancer and maybe you want to be a therapist or you're in some kind of 12th house field, maybe the studies you've been working on, now there's a milestone here where like now you're working with clients or you're beginning to have your first practice sessions or something else like that, where there is growth in that area for people, for cancers who are maybe in like a 12-step program, or you do some kind of spiritual meditation practice, or even if you work in a hospital or a prison or like a rehab center or like outpatient treatment or something, anything like that, any of those kind of social services that help people not be their own worst enemy, or try to help them. Something you could have some kind of growth or advancement too in that sense. Okay, so that's not going to be everyone, so only take that if it relates to you. However, Jupiter does rule the 9th house for all cancers, so it can be a mentor or teacher, teaches you something that you've been working diligently on that you're able to use in your spiritual practice, and like you can see the growth, and it can be something that you've already been doing, especially with Jupiter also ruling the 6th house of like the things you do every day. This gives me the vibe of like you've been doing a meditation every day and now it has some momentum on it, or you've been reading a book every day, a spiritual book every day, and now you're in the habit of practicing in it and it's helping you. Those kind of things are the kind of things that I'm feeling around this. Okay, we're going to go on to Leo now. For Leos, Jupiter's in your 11th house going direct around the 4th on the 4th of February. So this is nice. Jupiter in one of the best houses going direct. So think about what you've been working toward relating to your audience or your friends or your community. There might be something that, a new opportunity related to that. And, Jupiter in the 11th, it can be like friends, spiritual friends, mentors you meet in groups, or it can bring more Jupiter type stuff to your community. So like joining an online group of astrology or joining a in-person meetup where they do breath work or some other thing that is spiritual in nature. And Jupiter also rules the 8th house. So the 8th house ruler in the 11th kind of does, sometimes the best case scenario for this would be like getting a grant to make art, or getting a grant to publish something, or getting a grant to write a book, or getting some kind of funding to, again, write a book, or speak somewhere, or I can't think of other things you can get funding for. But with Jupiter and Gemini, it's like there's something about words, getting some kind of grant or some kind of funding or someone else to support you with something that relates to you using your words or teaching people something. Now, some of you, it might not be a grant. It might be sometimes the 8th house, if you have clients, sometimes the 8th house is your client's money. So them paying you for services. So for some Leos, maybe you're getting these, life coaching packages or other kind of clients that are paying you to teach them something. That could be a possibility here. Now, that might not be every Leo, so just take what resonates. But the eighth house is also like our taxes and our debt. And, Saturn's here that's like saying, okay, if you haven't dealt with this now, you're going to have to soon. Because that's what Saturn does, whatever house it goes through. And it's been here for a while. So some Leos may have had some issues with taxes or debt or things like that. Maybe not though. But for any that have had that, I think Jupiter going direct, it might almost be like, okay, that the taxes or the debt or the financial situation is motivating you to grow. That could be to feel like you can grow in your finances, in your audience, in your community. Like it can go that way as well. Now, Jupiter also rules your fifth house of fun. So let's talk about that because that's a little more happy. So this can be one of your kids is learning something and they are, it's taking center stage, and now is the time that they're doing a play, or they're being seen using their words in a public way, right? The 11th house being a very public house, social house. If you don't have kids, then it's not that. Then it's more like your own, and it can be both, but it can be your own creativity or your own creative self-expression that you are putting out there to the world and, expressing. So think about what you've worked on in the last year or so related to your self-employment, your self-expression, and the image that you have, but especially related to your ability to speak or teach, because those are going to be the most likely to be expressed in this way. So maybe there's an opportunity happening soon here for Leos that has to do with those kind of things, like having your own business and then growing an audience to buy the products, or doing something creative and putting something out there that relates to teaching with words or wisdom, the wisdom of words. Or, Gemini can also be a lot of other things, right? Gemini isn't just talking, right? It's like shipping and receiving. It could even be like singing or playing an instrument. Some Leos out there may be playing an instrument for a group of people around February. Not everyone will, but some. And then, the fifth house is pleasure. So like having pleasure in a group, it just feels like more opportunities related to community and fun and enjoying life with others. That's what I see the highest potential for Leos. All right, so let's go now to our next sign, which is going to be Virgos. And here we go. Okay. All right. So we are on Virgos. For Virgos, Jupiter goes direct in that 10th house of work, of your reputation, of your public image. Okay. So oftentimes, because it's Gemini has that dualistic type of way of being. Some Virgos might be getting a second job at this time, or you might have an opportunity that relates to wearing two different hats, or like maybe having in your work where you're doing one thing half of the time and this other thing, and you're just juggling a bunch of stuff. You might have an opportunity related to a Gemini type field, which would be like podcasting, speaking, shipping and receiving. Even things like, even medicine, right, is ruled by Mercury, Virgo rising. But it's more, Jupiter going direct is more about whatever you've been working on in your career and your work life in the last year, there being some kind of opportunity. And it might be like a second path opens up, or it could be something where like the side hustle turns into the main hustle, or maybe you decide to start that part-time thing or that business that you've always wanted to, that you've been thinking about starting and planning. It's probably not going to be some random thing coming out of the sky. It's probably going to be something you've been working on toward creating or toward growing in some way. Now, sometimes Jupiter in the 10th can be a mentor or a teacher, teaching you how to do the work or teaching you how to do the thing or something like that. So that's always a possibility as well. So maybe some Virgos might run into, come across the right teacher for something you want to do professionally. The right coach or the right, person who can help you, who has the actual knowledge and skills to help. That's one potential. Now, Jupiter also, though, is going to rule for Virgos your 4th house and your 7th house. So maybe around February, something happens in your home that makes it more jolly and happy and brings some feeling of growth to your home or to your family of origin. Maybe you have a visit with a parent or something that would just be considered improvement in that area of home. So it could be like the home you live in or like family of origin. Now, Jupiter also rules the 7th house of others. So it's also possible around early February that Virgos are having some kind of positive shift when it comes to the other people, especially coworkers or people in your work environment. Maybe there's an opportunity in your work life to just, it almost feels like doing more though with Gemini, right? Because Gemini is a pretty busy sign. It goes in all directions at once. So it almost feels like whatever opportunity is happening, it might be like, I don't know, like something that is kind of a fast thing, right? Because Gemini is also pretty fast moving, and it's information like bam, the information gets out that you can do this thing, and then the word of mouth spreads, and then it's like something catches. And so it could be some kind of fast moving thing in your work that relates to information, technology, even like sports equipment or something. For some reason, I just thought gambling, even though that doesn't have to really do with it, but maybe someone is gambling, right? Because Mercury, I'm talking Gemini. So Gemini can have that like trickster energy, that ability to kind of like talk a dog off a meat wagon and just like, if you read about Hermes, he he was a little trickster even from when he was like 3 days old, right? He was like blaming stuff on his brother, stole all his cattle, right? So it's like that sort of trickster energy of like, oh, I'm gonna get all these people to do this thing. I'm gonna trick them into it kind of energy. And that can be, seen in a more positive light. It could be sales. Some of you could be selling something, right? Because Mercury, Gemini also rules sales, selling, commerce, anything mercantile, right? Anything to do with buying and selling. So those are all the possible, that I can think of ways that Jupiter and Gemini might show up. But really for Virgos, it's feeling like career growth, and sometimes career growth, again, I told this to another sign already, is like you learning a new system at work, you learning a new skill at work. Now we're going to have you do this other thing too. Oh, we fired this person. You have to do their whole job, right? So sometimes growth isn't always that lovely thing we sort of imagine when we think of the goodness of Jupiter. But sometimes it is. Sometimes it's like, oh yes, I got more hours because I learned this second skill and I can work full time now, right? So it can go many different ways. But let's just touch on Jupiter ruling the 7th house as well, and that being the friends, the other people. Now the thing is though, is that Saturn is here saying, Saturn in the 7th kind of says, if you're not a good friend, you don't get to be my friend anymore. It shows you the problems in your friendships. It does not mean you cannot get married. People always think this. Virgos, you could get married. You could have a commitment because Saturn rules commitments. You could, you could, be more isolated, but you could also have a family during this time. I've literally seen people have a kid during their Saturn going through their seventh. Why? Because they're making a commitment with another person. So it doesn't always mean Saturn's going to block relationships. It could, but please don't go telling yourself that you can't meet people during this time. Maybe you'll meet the more serious people. Maybe the people in your life who've been a pain in the ass and are bad for you are going to be, you're going to see it and you can't tolerate it anymore. So that's what Saturn does. Saturn says, this problem can't just chill anymore. It's going to have consequences. And so that can be how that goes. It doesn't mean your whole seventh house is trashed for the whole 2.5 years. Okay, end rant. So we have Saturn slowing things down while Jupiter goes direct. So it might just be you meet one person, maybe especially if you've been dating, maybe you meet someone around this time. Virgos who are single and want to meet someone, I would think this would be a good time to try to just, be open about it because Jupiter does bring some kind of growth and opportunity. And it does rule your seventh house. And when it's in the 10th house, you might have a couple options, right? It might give you 2 options of someone to date and you need to pick one. It might not. It might be something else, right? It could be just your home gets improved, has more spaciousness. You move somewhere bigger. You put art on the wall. You do something that makes your home more enjoyable, more jovial. Or relationships. If you're already in a relationship, well, maybe Jupiter going direct is you two moving forward on some kind of goal that affects both of you and your long-term, your long-term plans and things like that. Okay, we're going to stop there for Virgo because I talked for a long time on that one. Going on now to Libras. Okay, for Libra, we have Jupiter going direct in your 9th house. So when Jupiter is in the 9th in general, we have the potential of finding the right teacher, finding a new teacher, learning a new thing, especially a spiritual thing. So Libras could be learning astrology, learning something, reading spiritual books, reading about any kind of belief system, right? Stoicism or Judaism or Buddhism or any of the isms when it comes to religion or philosophy or any of that beautiful 9th house stuff that's about like God. The 9th house is the house of God. Now, even if you wouldn't use that word, it still is about our beliefs and our faith and what is beyond this, right? Looking out, looking up toward the sky. So Jupiter expanding that and going direct gives some kind of new beginning or opportunity related to that topic or that area. Now, if you're a Libra who wants to travel, maybe it's travel, but it's not going to be travel for everyone. It might be something more related to your faith, your hope, your belief systems, and what's possible. It might be a feeling that, your prayers are being heard. That kind of feeling when you just feel connected, you feel like there is a blessing out there for you. And it just makes you feel like there's something positive in the universe out there. There can be some things happening that cause that kind of growth. All right. And it could also be Libras going back to school, Libras being in college, Libras getting higher education. That could also be a thing. Now we're looking at how Jupiter rules your 6th house and it rules your 3rd house. So 3rd house ruler in the 9th is very much about learning, right? Because both of these houses are about learning. It also does feel like it could be travel. Some Libras might be taking a trip or planning a trip at this time, or maybe now it's possible to think about your vacation kind of a thing. It can be like that. And so then Jupiter ruling the 6th house, that's going to be about habits. Habits affect your spiritual life, right? So maybe there's something you're doing every day that's like kind of hard, but when you do it every day, you feel closer to a higher power, you feel closer to spirit. That could be a thing. And I'm trying to think of other ways that sixth house ruler in the ninth can be. It's probably mostly that, mostly like daily habits that create some kind of opportunity. What you've been working on every day allows you to, it's almost like you've been studying every day. Now you get to ace the test or pass the test or something. So, or you just been working every day and now it just starts feeling more meaningful, right? Because that can also be a thing. So it definitely does feel like a more spiritual one for Libras, related to all of that. And yeah, that's what I have for Libras. Let's go on now to Scorpios. All right. So Scorpio, this is going to be Jupiter going direct in your 8th house of transformation. So the 8th house is also the house of other people's money. So for some Scorpios, it can always be just the financial side of that 8th house, of like someone pays you back, or you do, like you've been trying, especially if you have been trying to do an 8th house thing, if you've been trying to take out a loan, if you've been trying to get a grant, if you've been trying to do, I don't know, something like something like self-employment grant or something, or you've been trying to work through like self-employment taxes or anything related to like creativity or art, and like, I don't know, maybe you have to pay for art school, or you did something kind of creative and now it's like, I don't know, there's some kind of opportunity with combined efforts, like someone shares something with you or helps you, because that Jupiter in the 8th can also be someone close to you giving you wisdom, someone close to you giving you advice or helping you learn something. So this could be like a mentor teacher type relationship, or you're teaching them something. And there's also always a potential that intimacy is the 8th house and Jupiter's there, right? So some Scorpios could have more intimacy, and that can go, that can be in the relationship sense, or it can be in general in life where you realize you can trust someone, or something like that. It can also be, man, this Jupiter in the 8th house is getting me. It could also be growth of an 8th house thing. That could be your psychic ability. That could be your investment portfolio, any kind of thing like that. Especially with Jupiter in the 5th, because Jupiter, the 5th house, rules gambling. I'm not giving you advice to go gamble, but you might see some kind of payoff from something that felt like a gamble, right? Like maybe you put money into like some kind of investment, and now that investment began to mature, or it's at a stage where if you wanted to take money out, you could. It could be something like that. But again, it could also be like a psychic ability type thing. But let's factor in that Jupiter rules the 2nd house of money, and it's in the 8th house of other people's money. That might be, this is where Jupiter might not always be positive. Worst case scenario for Scorpios, if you owed someone money, now you have to pay it back. That might not be the case, but having the 2nd ruler in the 8th, it's like your money becomes your money and somebody else's. So the best case scenario would be you actually are putting money into an investment portfolio, or you're consciously choosing to invest money into something that is a risk, but that's what investing is. So it can be something like that as well. Now, let's say just the whole world of investing and stuff and all of that isn't really part of life at this moment. In that case, I would think that this opportunity for Scorpios might be more like you're able to tell someone how you feel. You're able to communicate who you are and express who you are with someone else. And maybe you're giving away stuff. Maybe you're giving some of your things to other people. Maybe the things that were yours Now you are sharing and they become ours. So it's like maybe someone is sleeping in your bed, Scorpio, or something along those lines. Okay. Okay, I think we'll go on to Sagittarius now. For Sagittariuses, Jupiter's you, and you're in the 7th house of relationships. So this can be like meeting a new friend. It can be some of the people you've met in the last few months or so. Like now they're turning into friendships, or now they're turning into a friendship. It can also have to do with relationship that is like a romantic one. So if you're a single Sagittarius, I would say early February is a good time to just be open and see, because it could be that the things that you've done in the past few months, especially while Jupiter was retrograde, were like culminating into a potential relationship, and now one is forming. Let's say you're a Sagittarius who's already coupled, or you're married, or you're in a serious relationship, or a new one, whatever. Well, and this might be a time where you two get to grow and bond more. There's more of a potential to bond and connect with other people. Jupiter makes that 7th house better. So it could be you have more people to talk to. You have more friends to chit chat with. You have more people to call on the phone. You have more people to DM or whatever, however you communicate. There's more conversations to be had. Now, for some Sagittarius, maybe that is because you got a bunch of clients and now you're having more client conversations. Maybe it's because you got a new job and at that job you have to talk. So it's more conversations, but I can't see, because it's a general reading, whether these are like your best friends or whether they're just the other people that you're interacting with. That kind of depends a little bit on your life. So now let's think about what Jupiter rules. It rules your 4th house of home and your 1st house of your body and your life. So let's start with home. So this one's going to be maybe a potential for healing related to family stuff, right? Because that 4th house isn't just home, it's also our emotional foundation. So could this be, especially with Saturn in the 4th for Sagittarius, when Saturn's in the 4th, if you've got issues to your emotional foundation in life, like problems here of like that emotional foundation isn't as solid as it needs to be, when Saturn's here, it will show you that. And you will have consequences for that. And those consequences might be as simple as you are very aware that you do not feel how you want to be feeling. But Jupiter going direct kind of gives us if you've been working through emotional turmoil, if you've been working through grief, if you've been working through an emotional stuck time, if you've been working through a feeling, because when Saturn's in the 4th, sometimes you feel like you are in obscurity and your professional life is not up there. You know, it's just like down in the deepest part of the earth. It doesn't always feel positive for people when Saturn's in their 4th. But then Jupiter going direct is like, okay, but whatever you've been dealing with that's been like maybe emotionally heavy, now maybe we can benefit from that work that we've done. So that's a possibility for Sagittarius. Now, if that doesn't apply to you, it might be more mundane, like everyday stuff, like whatever work you've been doing on your house. Now you get to enjoy it. You know, like you've been building the new deck. Now the new deck is built and you get to sit on it. You get to like go outside and see it, and just that kind of thing where you're enjoying a 4th house thing. But it could also be, again, like a family of origin thing. Like you have a moment with mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or someone else that is like raised you, or you have a moment where you're reflecting on someone who had that role in your life, whether they're still, you know, here or not. And you have some kind of peace or some kind of awareness or some kind of healing, you know, some kind of a resolution here. That is a possibility for Sagittarius as well. Now let's talk about how Jupiter was the 1st house of your body and you, and what that means for that to be in the 7th. Well, it kind of does, it still does put the focus on relationship, but it's like, who are you in the relationship? What is your identity in the relationship with other people? And maybe you have a shift of your identity in relationships with people that's positive, where you're able to do more or take on more or experience more, learn more, grow more. Because now, like, Sagittarius is the person who does X, Y, and Z. Maybe now, and again, this could be very everyday, right? It could be like, now you're the person at your work who checks everybody else's work, and that's a new part of your identity. It might be you're in a relationship now, and it's like, oh, now I'm so and so's wife or so and so's girlfriend or so and so's whatever. And that's added to your identity. With Jupiter ruling the first house, it has to do with who you are becoming, and becoming more of who you were, and seeing that play out in relationships. Okay, going on now to Capricorns. All right, Capricorns, we have Jupiter going direct in your sixth house of work. So unfortunately, there is the potential this could be more work to be done. It can really just be Jupiter in the sixth being like, you got more to do here. But sometimes when Jupiter is in the sixth, it's you have help solving problems, everyday problems, any kind of problem. Whether your problem is that you need to talk to someone you can't get a hold of, or whether your problem is that you don't have enough clothes, or that you need to pay your bills on time more, or that you, I don't know, have bugs in your house, any kind of problem. Okay, so Jupiter in the sixth may not be as easy to see because there's going to be a problem Jupiter might help you solve. And so that could be something related to health. Now, I'm not predicting health problems, but if you are already dealing with a health thing and you are trying to find the solution, you're trying to find the supplement, you're trying to find the habit, Jupiter can help in that sense of helping you see what's possible, helping you to see or come into contact with the information that you need to learn. But the problem with Jupiter in the sixth for that is that learning doesn't equal being healthier, right? Because that, unless you do it, now I'm not accusing you Capricorns of not doing it, but sometimes with Jupiter in the sixth, we can end up focusing more on the mental aspect of the nutrition, the mental aspect of the body, and what we need to heal or what we need to get better from whatever we're dealing with. And then all we need to do is try the thing. But like with Jupiter in the sixth, we might, you can only visualize so much. And I know some people will come at me for that, but it's like, I have this natally. Okay. You can only visualize so much about your health before it can only take you so far, the belief and the faith. Now there can be so many other things. So some Capricorns, maybe you find a new supplement. Maybe you find a new provider who is going to help you figure out what's happening in a certain area of your life with health or body or something. But for many of you, it may not be that. For Jupiter, just Jupiter in the sixth could be you are reading your Bible every day. You are reading a spiritual book or a spiritual text every day. And you are enjoying that, or you're adding something Jupiterian, so something very religious or wise or philosophical or very, very technical, educationally very advanced information about a subject to your daily routine. Sometimes Jupiter in the sixth will be that. Sometimes it'll just give you, I don't want to say it'll just give you more work actually, because that's not totally what it is. I want to say it might give you some kind of help with a problem you have. So again, that could be any kind of thing. It might just be someone helps you pay off a bill. You get a house sitting job. You get something else that like relieves the burden. So that's what I would look for. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say here is that for Capricorns, it's not as likely when Jupiter is in the sixth that it's like, oh, this free, exciting thing with no strings. It's like something that relieves the burden, something that helps something that was pre-existing to no longer be a problem or to be less of a problem. That's what I would look for that. And then we also have Jupiter ruling your third house and your 12th house. So, with the third house, it could be a sibling, cousin, or aunt or uncle help you relieve a burden of some kind. With the third house, it could be something about your car or transportation, or some kind of positive thing helps, almost like if you're a Capricorn and you're struggling to pay off your car, or to pay off, like, your car needs work. Maybe someone does the work at a discount for you. That's the kind of thing I'm seeing here. That's the kind of positivity Jupiter is going to bring. Okay, so then, or like maybe you do a ride share where you were driving to work and then someone rides with you now and they pay half of it, right? That kind of thing. Or you do the Uber ride share thing and you pay less. Things like this, where something helps you unburden yourself to an extent, and that third house could or could not be related to it. Now, with the 12th house, this is going back to, like, for example, let's say you've been doing some therapy or any kind of other thing that would help you relieve some of those emotional, deep-seated emotional stuff, help you, solve spiritual problems, help you solve problems related to underlying fears and stuff. And then Jupiter being in the 6th, maybe some Capricorns are doing therapy every day. Maybe you've been doing therapy and now you can start applying what you've learned to your day-to-day life. And maybe it's not therapy, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a 12-step program. Maybe it's something else that's like designed to help us with our self-undoing of that 12th house. We all have it, but it's a day-to-day thing. It's like you have to do the thing every day, or you have to do it all the time to get the practice in, to be in the rhythm of it, or to be connected to the people who are going to help, that kind of thing. Okay, so those are the possibilities here for Capricorn. Feel free to let me know what resonates. And we're going to go on to our next sign, which is going to be the Aquariuses. All right, for Aquarius, Jupiter in the fun house. Jupiter in the 5th house is going to bring especially a potential to flirt. Okay, Aquariuses, if you're single, get out there right now on this transit, right? Early February, I want you flirting. No, but seriously, it can bring growth to that 5th house, and the 5th house is where we see dating and relationships that aren't long-term yet. That goes in the 5th house. The pleasure, the fun, the dates, the romance, all of that goes in the 5th house. What else goes in the 5th house is gambling, self-employment, art, any kind of art, self-expression. Those are all 5th house things, as well as kids. Jupiter in the 5th does not guarantee you will have a kid under this transit, but if you have kids, then Jupiter in the 5th is probably describing something related to them. Okay, where they're learning something new, or they're getting some wisdom, or they're like learning two things at the same time, or something like that. And also, whatever of the things that are relevant to your life that I just mentioned, Jupiter brings more, makes that thing better. If it's something that's already awesome, it's even more awesome. If it's something that was struggling before, well, now it has the potential to get a little bit better. So if you're an Aquarius, and let's say you have a troubled teenager right now, maybe Jupiter in the 5th is like they get a teacher they can really connect with, or something along those lines. So you have to consider, what is the condition of your 5th house already in terms of all those things I just mentioned. But it does feel like this would be a time where Aquarius in general might feel more creative. You might feel more like you can, okay, so if you can, going back to what I was saying. Yeah, so basically feeling more like you can express your own self. The 5th house is also kind of a house of, like, it doesn't always have to be creativity, like painting and stuff. It can be us, us basically making our mark on the world, right? So if you're like the queen of spreadsheets and you're an Aquarius, and you're like making the best spreadsheet ever, right? It does kind of have the feeling of like whatever you do in life that you are really good at, that you really feel like is your jam, that's your thing. I know the 5th house isn't our work, but it's like, it's how we make our mark on the world, what we birth into being, including literal children for some people, and everything else that we emanate from us and we create. So that could be anything. Like if you're a more serious Aquarius, that's going to be something serious. It's probably going to be at your job. Okay, but there's an opportunity to either start something or to really push something forward. And this is probably something you've already been working on. Now, I do like that Jupiter rules the second house, because the second house ruler going direct in the fifth house does give me good feelings about money. It does give me feelings like your money, maybe you invest your money into self-employment. Oftentimes, okay, here's the thing most people don't know. Where your money plan is might be where your money's going right now. So you might be spending a lot of money on entertainment or fun, and maybe that's because you have it to spend, Aquarius. Maybe you are investing into some new business or something. Either way, it's like the money planet goes direct. It does give a feeling like the money flow might be happening. I can't guarantee that the flow is to you, though. Sometimes the flow of the money is going out. And again, it's like, this is what you're spending on. So some Aquarius with kids might have expenses for that. Some with hobbies, you might just be spending on a hobby or spending on dating or something. And then Jupiter also rules your 11th house. So 11th house ruler in the fifth, I really like this because it's like, community brings fun. Community contributes to your self-expression. Community contributes to learning something new that makes you feel expanded and like you're more yourself. The other people you're around help you grow. Having conversations that are like wise and deep, right? So like lots of positive things happening with this one, with 11th ruler and the fifth going direct for Aquarius is. So I see potential growth here of like your own self-expression, your community, and possibly money. So we'll go on now to the last but not least sign, which is our Pisces. Okay, let me get this to be all right. So for Pisces, Jupiter goes direct in the fourth house. Now, the fourth house is going to be that emotional well-being. So think about, especially in the last year, Pisces, what kind of habits or things have you been doing to make yourself feel more okay in your own skin? Maybe early February might be a time where you just start seeing the benefits of that, because it's the fourth house and the fourth house does rule our family of origin. This can include any kind of inner work you've been doing on looking at family dynamics and your role in the family of origin and how, recreating until we resolve, blah, 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 blah. But Jupiter going direct feels a little bit more, less heady about all that, and a little bit more embodied, a little bit more like, I don't know, like feeling connected to solutions to emotional problems, having a solution to an emotional problem that you maybe learn now that is maybe unrelated to the past, but still offering you a chance to become more than you were or have new tools to deal with feelings. Okay, to deal with feelings or to relate to others, especially relating to a parental figure, regardless of how old you are now. You could have some peace or happiness in your home. Your home could get better. It could get more jovial. It could get more happy. Because Jupiter rules your 10th house, some Pisces might be working from home. And it could be like, oh, now you have an opportunity to work remotely. Now, again, that might not feel like an opportunity if you don't want to, right? It kind of depends on what you want, and that's not going to be everybody, but working from home is a possibility when your 10th ruler is in your fourth. Working in a family business is a possibility when your 10th ruler is in your fourth. That could be your family, or you could be someone who works with the other family members. Now, what else? Let me think. Oh yeah, Jupiter. What does Jupiter rule? Pisces and Sagittarius. So I touched on the 10th house, but let's touch on it a little more in terms of the ruler of your career going direct, this one might have an effect on your role in your career, especially Pisces. Think about what you've been working toward this last year when it comes to your career direction. And because Jupiter's in Gemini, I can't help but feel like it could be almost like a dualistic advancement where it's like, yes, you can move forward in this thing, but you have to do two things at once. Or you get, it's like getting an additional task to do at work that is now you're flipping back and forth kind of a thing. Because Gemini has this sort of like moving back and forth sort of energy. There's an energy of Gemini of like, I'm not happy here, so I'm going to go over there, and then I'm going to go back, and then I'm going to go back and forth. And there's a need wherever we have Gemini to do that. Okay, so this could be in your work where there is this back and forth energy of like, I'm going to this job and then I go back to that one or something like that. But it can also be just going like multitasking at work or having a new opportunity at work that you take on something new, you learn a new thing, but it requires you to do it alongside something else, or there's more talking involved, or there's more communicating, or things are moving faster or something like that. And overall, though, it could just be some kind of positive step in your public life, and usually that's your job. But if you have a business or if you're a stay-at-home parent or something, it's going to be that role, that public role that you have in life, whatever your job in life is, it's going to be that. Okay, so then we're going to consider that Jupiter also rules you and you're at home. You're in the fourth house. You're thinking about your feelings. So again, it kind of does make me feel like there's opportunity to solve problems that are related to your own emotional well-being, your inner world, how you feel, your day-to-day dealing with your own skin, praying, meditating. The fourth house is like, it's like our bedroom as well, so it's like praying before bed or reading your book before bed or waking up in the morning and doing some kind of meditation or spiritual practice that you would do that's like more on the private side. So it's like those private things. There's some kind of opportunity or opening, or especially if you've been learning a lot of private practices or private spiritual practices, or working on things that no one else would see that are designed to give you a general more sense of hope or optimism when it comes to your emotional well-being. Maybe especially for Pisces who've been doing this stuff, you've been doing the Reiki, or you've been doing the meditations, or you've been doing your tarot readings quietly to yourself, or something along those lines. Maybe now some kind of opportunity to have like a second thing, a second stream of income, or a second thing on top of what you've already been doing with your work or like with your role. Usually that's work, but because Jupiter is you, it's like you are doing something new that is like fun, exciting, fast moving, on top of something you already do, on the side of something related to a Gemini thing, right? You're doing comedy, you're doing writing, you're going to start writing in your free time. You're, some kind of opportunity like that. It could be so many different things. So try to think about, of everything I've said, which of the things makes the most sense based on where your life is right now and what you've been working toward, because Jupiter doesn't always just bless you from the heavens with no reason, right? Sometimes it does, and it's wonderful when it does. It's wonderful, great, and I love that, and that's to be celebrated. But more often, it's what next step have you been working toward that might begin to be realized or have a next level of growth in February. So because it's fourth house, it's either going to be your emotional world, like you're meditating or you're journaling, or you're, if you do therapy or if you do any kind of like self-development, it's that where you can connect more deeply to some kind of inner wisdom or inner insight or intuition. Or because Jupiter rules that 10th, some kind of career thing, some kind of thing with your job where maybe you're doing more behind the scenes because the fourth house is very private. And then because Jupiter's you, it's like I would say this one's going to be more personal for Pisces because it's not just you, it's you every time. Every time Jupiter goes direct, it's you, but it's you in the fourth house of your feelings and your home and your private spaces. So it could also be literally getting a new bed, literally doing something to improve your home, especially your bedroom, or just to make it more spacious or expansive or feel more, like uplifted. Okay. So that is what I have for Pisces. I'm going to check the comments. Okay. So, thank you all to everyone who joined me today. I also do have a fun video available called Blocks to Blessings. And it is, you can book it in the comment or in the description. There is a link. It's only available through Tuesdays. So if you want to get in on that, this is a reading from me. It's a video you get the link to, and you can watch it in your privacy of your own home. And it's your chart. So imagine this chart is your chart. I'm going to go through, I'm going to tell you what the biggest, strongest, most influential energy I see in your chart, what kind of problems it can manifest. So like this person, it would be Uranus moon. This isn't a person. This is a date that is coming up, but still I'd be like, oh my gosh, you have Uranus moon in Taurus. And I would tell you all about what that means for your personality, your life, and what kind of things you would go through. And then I would tell you what you can do with it and what, how to make the best out of that. So if you want to get in on that, feel free to click the link in the description. It will take you right to the page and then you can book that. And again, it does only go through the 28th. That's this Tuesday. Okay, so if you haven't already done so, you should definitely check out the Venus North Node video I did. That's going to tell you about the energy coming up February 1st. So that's actually happening before this. So if you're curious about that, that is available. There's also a video on the North Node. The nodes entering Pisces and Virgo. That happened on the 11th, so you can check that out as well. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you beautiful souls in the next